Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Clemens. I am the producer, the DP, as well as the editor for Honestly I Think It's Just Me, a collaboration with Yoshi. And today we'll be continuing on the film breakdown and we'll be focusing a lot on the nature and the field shots today. So we'll be skipping through the studio shots. If you guys haven't seen that yet, just click somewhere, either on our Instagram profile or our YouTube channel, and you probably see it there because I'm releasing that first. So let's jump right into it. We're gonna skip the studio shots because we already went through them. Something that we originally planned in the field was to do this dance sequence that you see later on, and I was very adamant about doing it at dawn. I've never done like a dawn kind of shoot before, so I wanted to experiment with how lighting would come into play when the sun was just rising, and it came out really, really well. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But our main location, which was at Gardens by the Bay, we got chased out of that because apparently you need a permit even if it's non-commercial, and we didn't get a permit for that, unfortunately. So we only got one shot. That one shot was magical though. But we had other shots that we had to do at the Gardens by the Bay area, with just this big field area. So our alternative was Lakeside Gardens, and we shot a big field shot over there with YK standing and sitting down. Even though we scrapped that shot afterwards, we were already there, so we just wanted to kind of walk around and get a feel of the space and see if we could grab any other unplanned shots. So this shot over here, the one where we see, this is YK, right? This is YK walking. We had a few variations. We had some where YK was standing there and there were people walking past her. We had some where YK was walking to the frame left, and then we'll have people walking past her again. We experimented with a lot of different like speeds of all of this stuff, and we found that I think one of the best the best takes that we got was really this. Somehow we managed to get the dancers to almost synchronize with the piano of the song. It's not exact, but it's very close, and that was something that we really liked, so we just left it in there. And it's the same thing that I talked about a little bit in the previous video, where we didn't really want to show and establish like the faces of the other dancers. We just wanted to establish a subject, like our main character-ish, like YK. So we were showing like body parts and all this, which is the reason why we went for closer, like tighter shots here. We didn't want to show like mid bodies, we didn't want to show like a wide shot or anything, because we didn't want to give away that it was like in Lakeside Gardens. Yeah, so all we see is just this grass, there's some bouquet, it's blurred out, that we just focus on like how people are just walking past YK and so on. And it just turned out to be really, really nice. So same thing, we're skipping past the match cuts. And so we talked a little bit about this shot where we have her reaching out for the book, and we wanted it to come as a very impactful moment for the shot after this, because the music kind of crescendos up, right? It goes up and it's like almost like a drop kind of feeling, right? So it's building up to something and then it's just silence. So when we listened to that, we took that in as an audio cue to create this visual of like building up, this impactful, suspenseful build into almost like a nothingness. And that led us to get this shot, which you see over here, which is one of my favorite shots in the film. This is our third try at this shot. Like I mentioned, the first shot that we tried was at Gardens by the Bay, where we got chased out, so we didn't manage to get it at all. We went to Lakeside, right? When we went to Lakeside, we got the shot. We could see a lot of people running in the back, because by the time we reached, it was like 10 AM already. So we had runners, we had cyclists in the background, and we didn't want them in the shot because YK as a subject is very small and she's barely moving, and we are seeing this like human subjects moving in the background, so your attention is just taken away from her, where we want to isolate her in that scene. So same thing, when we were editing here, Yoshi and I, we were looking at it and was like, this is not really what we want, so we decided to do a reshoot. That's why we were at Botanics last week and we were getting a shot. So same thing, it was a 6 AM call time, but because of the way that the space was laid out, we didn't want any lampposts or anything. So we got the shot in a field. The issue was that when we wanted to avoid all the lampposts and the random lights, we had to frame it in only one direction, and that direction was where the sun was rising behind YK. And with the light source behind our subject, naturally the area where our subject is and the subject itself is dark, completely dark. And the sunrise was so beautiful, but if I exposed it for the sun, I couldn't expose my subject. And if I exposed my subject, the sun wouldn't, it would just be white. It would just be a white background. And it would feel like we are shooting at like 4 p.m., the kind of feeling. We got the shot. And we did something very similar to Lakeside Gardens, where we were just like kind of walking around, getting a feel for the space. And when we came to this area, the lake, I looked at Yoshi and I was like, do you see the vision? If I put YK over there, I film it from the other end. So I'm filming from another side of the pond, the other end. And I pushed my lens to 70mm, right? I was using a 24-70. I pushed it all the way. And I was like, this looks crazy right now. I really want to get this shot. Can we just get this shot real quick, right? So we're looking, it doesn't feel like that because of the compression, right? It's 70mm. But it was easily like 30-40 meters away. So we couldn't even shout because we couldn't hear each other. So we had to call each other. Yoshi's actually on the frame right. He's out of frame, obviously, but we were calling each other and he was directing YK to do the actions that we needed. And it just turned out so beautiful when I was reviewing in post. Something I didn't notice was the reflection. It was unplanned completely. Obviously, I should have seen it because obviously it's a water body, you will see reflections, but I was just so fixated on getting the framing right and the lighting right that I completely ignored the reflection. And it turned out, really, really nice. So for myself to note, obviously, like I should be more attentive to this kind of things, but luckily it turned out to be great. So no issues there. Now, a few things about this scene actually that I was really, really like, that I really enjoyed a lot. The fact that it was about 7:30, around 8 o'clock, where the sun was rising, but we can see this strong glow at the top left-hand corner of the frame around here, right? So that's why we see like the trees almost getting like it's, you can barely see the leaves of the tree, but it just turned out so nice in the reflection as well. So that's what I was really happy about. Something that I really enjoyed also was the ability to show depth in this shot. Although I was shooting on 70mm and there's a lot of compression happening, I was still able to show like this vastness of the space. Partially because we had these leaves at the bottom right hand corner, right? So as a foreground, we have this depth of the lake that kind of winds towards the frame left, right? It kind of winds around, and then we have this land mass where YK is on. And it isn't exactly like it doesn't cut across the screen. It just kind of comes in nicely at the right, and it kind of gets tighter towards the tip of it, right, towards the frame left side. And it just felt so nice. It was visually so appealing because of how the riverbank looks like, that it just looked so beautiful in terms of the depth. And we have these big trees in the background, these bushes in the background, that just creates another level, like in terms of height and the depth as well. So this shot in itself just came out so nice for me that when I looked at it, I knew instantly I had to use this shot in the final film. And of course, that's why it's here. Other than that, I was really happy that the pond itself had ripples, little ripples happening here and there. It wasn't raining, so I would assume it's like insects and all on the water surface. But because YK is barely moving, in fact, in the other scene, the next scene towards the end of the film, where she's sitting down and she has that book in her lap, she's not moving at all. It's almost like a frame, just a still. And I'm just glad that, we had a bit of wind, so the leaves are moving slightly. We have these ripples on the pond that creates this so much additional little details, but the focus is still on YK because these little ripples and this movement of the leaves aren't big enough to take the attention away from her. One more thing that we also got in this scene, the only problem that we had in here was a fire hose. I have no clue why there is a fire hose in the middle of a riverbank, but it's this red fire hose jutting out from the ground. The reason why you don't see it in this shot is because YK is standing in front of the fire hose. So we framed it in such a way, we angled it in such a way where we wouldn't see the fire hose, but the issue arose when she was sitting down. Right, so what we did was actually we just got her to sit away from the fire hose, and we shot the fire hose in the scene. The reason why you don't see the fire hose in the shot is because generative fill is my best friend. So what I did was I extracted a frame, the first frame from the shot that I wanted to use in the final film. I brought it to Photoshop, generative fill both the fire hose on the riverbank and in the reflection, and then I slapped it back in, I masked it. So we wouldn't see the fire hose at all. Because of that, I actually lost a little bit of ripples, but because it's also so small in the shot, you don't see it at all. So I'm gonna just like, I probably showed you already as a cutaway. So you will be able to tell it's a huge difference, right? How the fire hose takes so much away, because we are looking at such greenery, you know, this like warm kind of feeling, this green, yellow kind of hues, and then there's this red out of nowhere. So that's actually the reason why, like, when we were here and I was telling Yoshi, like, do you see the vision? He was a bit like, okay, the red thing is kind of like in the way of everything, and we don't know how we want to do this. But I just told him, hey, let's just take this as a safety. Let me figure out what I can do with it, like maybe AI remove it in post, right? And it worked out. So very, very happy about this shot. Really talked very long about this, but it's so good, and I love it so much. So let's move on. After this, we have our first dance sequence where we actually introduce the dancers. So I really enjoyed having this like slight dolly out, right? And I was mentioning about how I really wanted this like dawn shoot in the morning. The reason why I wanted that is because that is essentially the only time for me, in my opinion, where the sun is up in the sky, but we, number one, don't have very harsh lighting, and number two, we get this very beautiful glow on the side of the faces, very similar to how we did the studio, you know, where we had that top-down shot, the spotlight with like definition. This the sun was on the frame left, it's rising like a 45-degree behind them, so that created like almost like this very nice outline, this glow on the face that just came out so beautiful, right? So we can see like on the left side of everybody's face, it's a little bit more like, not say defined, but it's a little bit brighter. We see this like orangey, yellowish glow that just turned out so visually pleasant, because it doesn't take so much like attention away from the dancers, the subject, and the movement itself, but it's just like such a nice tinge of exposure that just helped to define the face a little bit more. That was really just so pleasant to look at. And one thing for the dancers, I'm very happy for Yoshi to do this, is that we didn't have a full frontal facing formation. We kind of position the dancers facing different directions, and even though the steps are the same, we have so much variation in there because of how the profiling is done. It just came out so nice, so nice. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. This is once again another one of my favorite shots, right? And of course, my last favorite shot is the reversed one. This shot over here is one of like the craziest thing we did in the edit, right? Because we did this at Lakeside Garden again. This was a shot where we had YK walking forward and the dancers walking past her. And this shot was not even an actual take. This was actually when the dancers were resetting to go back to do another take. We were looking at the shot and we were like, hey, this looks really nice, right? So we have this opposing direction. And I'm just very glad that, you know, we kept the camera rolling throughout, because it just turned out so nice, and I somehow managed to hold it steady, right? I wasn't even like focusing on keeping it stable or anything, but it just looked good, and it felt right to put it into the film at this juncture, because there was so much nice flow from the previous shot where it contrasted a little bit from the shadows, and then the light cut reverse, and then the hand power reverse into this, and then this would transition nicely into the next shot or so. So honestly, I don't know how or why, but we managed to just get this shot and it just turned out so nice, so we just added it in at the end. The shot after this shot is so wonderful. I remember shooting the walking past, that sequence again, and towards the end, Yoshi just kind of bent down, he ducked down and did this, and then he kind of looked up. we actually were shooting the walking past sequence at the base of this hill, which is why you kind of see this kind of curvature at the back of the shot. And Yoshi was like, this looks nice. So I was like, okay, I put my gimbal there, I tilted it up slightly, and I was like, okay, this is it. I know what you're looking at right now. So he saw this, and I managed to kind of see this also. We saw this almost like a window desktop kind of image, where we have this very nice like curve of a hill at the bottom right hand corner, and we have this like almost negative space of just clouds and the sky at the top left. And it was very nice because it was a cloudy day, so we had a nice white backdrop, but it wasn't so cloudy to the point where it was just full white, right? So we can see a bit of definition on the bottom left hand corner, where it's a little bit bluish, and then we see a little bit of clouds going up and down. On the right side, we see texture of the clouds, which just comes out very, very nice for us. And of course, for the dancers, because of the hill being slanted, we see this profile of the dancers as they're lying down that we don't usually see. We are so used to like a frontal, top-down, maybe even like a worm's eye view kind of look. But very rare we will see them at the base, right? Because they're on an elevated position, and they're not standing on the elevated position, they're lying down, and we're filming from a 45-degree angle. So something that Yoshi was very happy about this shot, and I agree with him, was it was a forced perspective thing. If you don't know what that is, please go search it up. It's amazing, right? We are essentially just forcing the audience perspective to view it from the way that we want them to view it. And it just turned out so beautiful, so scenic, like it was like a postcard. So once again, this is one of my favorite stills from the film. It's just came out so beautiful, and of course we had the dancer sliding down. We actually contemplated reversing this sequence. So in the film, we have the dancers moving, and then they'll slide down. My idea was to reverse it so they slide up, then they reverse. But Yoshi was against it because he felt that there were quite a lot of reverse sequences already, especially this was leading into one of the biggest reverse sequence that we had. So we kept it as it is. It was still really, really, really beautiful. This shot over here, we originally planned it just like the field shot. We planned it to be in Gardens by the Bay, but once again we got chased out. We did it. We didn't do it at Lakeside Gardens because by that time we were like, hey, it's just too many people. We're not gonna do this here. So we did this at a car park. Actually, we did this at Stadium Car Park, and it was so nice. I really, really enjoyed that shot that we did for the Stadium Car Park because it was very tight in a sense where the formation was smaller and the movements were more fluid, but the look of the space didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to, because we have this very two contrasting locations, right? We have this natural light, nature field look, and we have this controlled lighting, harsh lighting in a studio, right? It's indoor, it feels very dark, for lack of a better word, right? It's just blackness. And then we have this random in the middle insertion of a car park where we had natural lighting. It wasn't dark, but it was like harsh, it was indoors, and it was cooler, like colder in terms of color temperature. So at the end of the day, we looked at it, same thing, and we were thinking about the field shot, and we decided to reshoot it again at Botanic Gardens. So that's why we have this shot here. But honestly, the car park was really nice. It's just that the location didn't fit the idea that we wanted. Similarly, we shot this very close to sunrise. I think it was maybe like 7:20, 7:30 a.m. So same thing, sun was on the frame left, right? So we have this, once again, nice glow on the right side of all our subject faces, or technically towards the frame left. Yeah. And the way that we did this, so this was one of the hardest scenes that we did, honestly, because simply because of it being reversed. We planned this shot. This shot had to be choreographed and had to be planned out. So here is one of the biggest difficulties that we found out about a reverse sequence. There are two main things we need to take note of. The first thing is the way that we're going to shoot it. Because it's reversed, whatever that you see in the film at the start is the end of the shot, right? Because we would flip it around. So as a filmmaker, I would have to engineer and twist my brain in such a way where I have to think, okay, what the audience sees is not what I'm gonna film, right? And I cannot like tell until I actually get home and I reverse it in post. So I would have to reverse it in my head, right? So we see YK kind of like a mid shot with the book at the start. That's the ending. The start of the clip that I was filming was, I am essentially here. I have the dancers in front of me. They're moving. YK is behind me. I'm going to move backwards. YK is going to move, well, forward, but she's walking backwards. So she's moving something like this, right? And then once we introduce her, I'm going to dolly in as well. So I'm going to follow her all the way till she gets to the center. Then I go all the way into that mid shot. So when we reverse that, we would have this feeling of me moving back as she moves forward, right? And then after that, we see her go to the side, and then she's gonna move off frame while I move forward into the dancers. So that was the look that we managed to create at the end of the day. But just, being able to engineer that shot was so difficult in my head because I'm so not used to kind of flipping things around. So that was a very enjoyable experience for me, honestly. Second thing that we had to do was the dance itself, right? Because as a filmmaker, for the shots I had to do, I obviously have to reverse them. So the first shot is the last shot of the clip. But the dance itself also had to be choreographed in a way that it had to be reversed. So in this, there's another subset of two different things we have to think of as dancers or like as a choreographer for this routine. The first thing is, of course, the sequence of the movements have to be reversed. Similar to how we shot the scene, we would have YK walking backwards, right? And then when we reversed it, she'll be walking forward. So we had to engineer how, okay, she's gonna walk backwards, then she's gonna pass the book, and then they're gonna play with the book around, and then she's gonna pass it back to her, and then she'll look at the book at the end of the clip. So that when we reverse, she's gonna look up at the camera, she passes it around, she gets it back from the person, and she walks off, right? Second thing we had to do was to, okay, so a little bit of context for this shot. The way we wanted it to do was we wanted all the other dancers to look a little bit off, right? They would be moving normally, but gravity felt like it wasn't really working on them. It's kind of like a Tenet kind of feeling. But we wanted YK as a subject to move completely normally. So the difficulty in that was to teach her how to move in such a way where when we reverse her movements, it will look natural. One of the biggest examples for this was when she's walking forward in the film. Because it's reversed, she will have to walk backwards. But walking backwards isn't that easy because if you walk backwards, normally our weight is generally on the back. We will be placing our weight to the back of our body. But when we reverse that, we would look like we are doing this, right, where the weight is to the back, because we don't walk with the weight towards the back of our body. We walk with the weight towards the forward part of our body when we walk forward. So this is like something we had to really like sit down and be like, okay, this is how. Then we had to practice walking forward and backwards. So we realized the way YK had to walk when we were shooting this was to walk backwards, but with the weight and the CG of her body placed forward. So she had to move like this, which was something that's so interesting, and it was so difficult for her to grasp naturally, because who the hell walks backwards with that weight forward, right? It's like almost like pulling yourself in two different directions. But when we reversed it, it looked so natural and so fluid that it looked like she was really walking forward in the reverse scene. I think something that I'm really happy about this scene is that it doesn't look reversed, right? You only kind of pick up that it doesn't feel right when you start to see things like the hair moving in a different direction, right? Like the gravity not really working. But a lot of those kind of parts are very subtle. It's very hard to see. And even one of the parts where we do like the book handoffs, right? So when we're passing the book around, it feels very seamless. Because in the film, when you see, the book goes into someone's hand and it fits perfectly, right? It doesn't hurt the hand, it doesn't like overshot, and we don't see like too much energy pushing the hand away. Obviously, it's because instead of giving the book, we're actually taking the book away. So it came out actually very nicely because it kind of nested into their hands. and it didn't feel like they were throwing the book or putting too much energy into giving the book around. Something that was really, really, really nice to see in the final film. So yeah, you can see this as she's walking forward. It just feels so natural. Yeah. We wanted to kind of end off the film with her finally getting the book, finding the book, and us as an audience, we also get to see what was inside the book, what she was looking at this entire time. So for this shot, we did over the shoulder again, almost like a voyeuristic feeling. Once again, like I mentioned in the previous video where we talked about the over the shoulder when she's reaching out for the book, and we realized that there's a mirror inside the book, and we framed it in such a way where her face wouldn't be inside the mirror, but we would see her fingers reaching out to almost touch it. And very similar to the way that we did the reaching out for the book thing, we don't see the contact or the fingertips with the mirror. We just see her reaching out once again with the intention. She actually did touch it at the end of the day, and really just like cut it there, right? And we go straight to title. So I think that's how we really wanted to leave it up to interpretation. But logistically, on an actual like filmmaking and producing perspective, right, finding this prop was a pain, because who would have a mirror inbuilt in a book, right? Our original idea was to buy this really thick book, this hardcover, right? Because one of our main things we needed was a hardcover. It couldn't be soft and flimsy. So we wanted this like thick book, and we'll open it and we'll cut the pages out, like create an insert, and we'll put in a mirror. So we'll buy a smaller than A5 mirror, this small, and just put it in there, and then so when we open, you will see that mirror. There were so many challenges in coming around that idea, because we didn't do it in the end, obviously, because we got this book. But when we cut, with a penknife or whatever, we would see the jagged edges, and it just doesn't feel clean. It doesn't feel seamless. It would create this like rugged kind of feeling in the book, very brutish. So, but if we had to do that at the end of the day, we would have to, and we just try to just smoothen it out as much as possible. Somehow, when I was looking for both a book and a mirror, I was in Popular. So shout out to Popular for this. I stumbled upon this. A notebook with a mirror in it, embedded in the hardcover. And I showed it to Yoshi, and he was like, yeah, this is it, just take it. Yeah, so we managed to, get it at the end of the day for pretty cheap. I think it's like $15 tops. So it's pretty solid. Yeah, and I was very happy with how the book turned out at the end of the day. So that was essentially like the breakdown of all our nature and field shots. If you guys are really interested, I might do more videos in the future about this film. There's more that I want to talk about, but I think for now that was kind of like the thought process and the ideas that went behind both the studio and the nature shot. So just let us know, maybe in the comments below, just drop us a DM if you want to see more of these kind of things. And yeah, let us know your thoughts about the film, about the breakdown, and if there's anything you want to ask us, just shoot. Till then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.